So, if you're wondering where your Facebook ads are actually going to show up, or maybe you clicked on the manual placements box in the Facebook ads dashboard and got a little overwhelmed by all those options. Don't worry, in today's video I'm going to break down what all of the Facebook placements are, what they mean, and which ones you should be using for your Facebook ads. So let's get started. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Socialography YouTube channel. My name is Angela, and today I wanted to talk about something that not a lot of people really pay much attention to, and it might seem like a minor detail, but it's something that I don't think a lot of people understand or truly realize how much of an impact this tiny detail can have on the cost of your Facebook ads. And that is your placement. So let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, I have my ads manager pulled up on my computer. I'm going to share my screen with you guys somewhere over here so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm going to walk you through each of the different ad placements. We're going to talk about what they are, why you would use them, and then we're going to break down which ones you should be using for your campaign. So in order to see all of the different ad placements that are available, you would first create a new campaign, and then once your campaign is open, you would go to the ad set section of that campaign. And then you want to scroll down until you see placements. And for every new campaign, automatic placements is automatically selected. And that is what's recommended by Facebook. And for the majority of your campaigns, you're probably going to use automatic placements. But there's a very good reason why you would want to use manual placements. So for this video, we're obviously going to click manual placements. And when you do, you get a whole drop-down list of all of the different options that you can use to place your ad. So after you select manual, you'll see that you can select placements by device. I would highly suggest that you use all devices unless you specifically are advertising an app made for iPhone or Android. But then below that, you can see that the placements are organized by platform and by placements. So let's start with platforms. So we've got 4 options here, starting with Facebook, obviously, Instagram. So this is where you would actually set up your Instagram ads as well. So when someone says, yeah, you do your Facebook and Instagram ads in the same place, this is what they're talking about. All of it is managed through the Facebook Ads Manager dashboard, and your Instagram ads are simply another placement that you can choose to run alongside your Facebook ads. So you have Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and then you have Audience Network. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Audience Network later in the video. But for now, we've got the 4 platforms, and then we've got the multiple placement categories on each of those platforms. So you can see that the placements are organized by categories, starting with feeds, then we have stories, in-stream, search, messages, in-article, and apps and sites. So each of these categories, when you hit the little drop-down button, has multiple different placements within those categories. So as you can start to see, when you open up all these different categories, there are just endless placements that you can choose from where you want your ad to show up. And this is probably why Facebook just recommends automatic placements so that you don't have to go through the trouble of choosing. But I think it's important that you understand that A, you have the ability to choose, and B, that you understand what each of these placements are, where they appear, what they look like to your audience, because if you create an ad for a Facebook newsfeed, it's not going to look good on Instagram necessarily or Instagram stories. So it's important that you pay attention to each of these placements and understand what they are, where they'll show up, and what they'll look like when they do show up there. So we're going to go ahead and start at the top with feeds. And under the feeds category, we have Facebook newsfeed, Instagram feed, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook video feeds, Facebook Right column, Instagram Explore, and Messenger Inbox. Now, you'll probably notice that some of these options are grayed out and you can't select them, like Messenger Inbox here under Feeds. And that's because some of these placements are only available depending on what type of campaign you're running. And when I set up this new campaign, I just chose conversions. But if you wanted to run a campaign with a messenger inbox placement, you would need to select a messaging campaign with the objective of sending messages from the very beginning when you create a new campaign. So keep that in mind. If anything's ever grayed out, it's because it depends on the type of campaign that you've selected in order to have that placement. Okay, so then we have the stories placements. And these are Instagram stories, Facebook stories, and Messenger stories. Now, all three of these apps have their own stories feature, but what's nice is once you create an image or an ad that works for one of those placements, it will work for all three. So if you do plan on using Instagram stories, for instance, then you can use Facebook and Messenger stories without having to create separate ads. So that's nice. Then we have InStream, and we have Facebook InStream videos, and then we have Instagram IGTV. And this placement is specifically for video ads. And the way that these work is that content creators on Facebook and Instagram who are able to get monetized, basically, will place ads in certain spots on their video. And if they've placed an ad, then your video ad has the potential of showing up in that spot. Okay, so next we have search, and this is specifically for Facebook search results. So anytime you go to the search bar on Facebook, you have the potential of having your ad show up alongside the other results in search. Then we have messages, and these are Messenger sponsored messages, which again, you have to have a Messenger campaign that you select from its creation. So if that is the type of campaign that you've selected, then obviously you want to have sponsored messages. Then we have Facebook instant articles, and this one works when someone clicks on an instant article and the article pops up. As you scroll through the article, there tend to be ads, and that is one of the placements where your ad can show up. And then finally, we have apps and sites, and this is pretty much the audience network placements. And there are three placements within the audience network, which are native, banner, and interstitial. Then we also have audience network reward videos and in-stream videos. And like I said, we're gonna go into a little bit more detail about all of those later on in the video. Okay, so those are all of the platform and placement options for your Facebook ads. So now let's talk about which ones you should be using for your Facebook ads specifically. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, don't worry, I've got some good news. So there are about 20 different placements to choose from, and with all of the different platforms and all of the different options, there's almost infinite combinations that you can use for your Facebook ad campaign. So how do you know which ones to use, and how do you know when to stop using automatic placements? Let's break that down. So the good news is that if you are just starting out running your first Facebook ad campaign, or you don't have a lot of data under your belt on the Facebook ad campaigns that you've been running, then I want you to go ahead and use the automatic placements selection. So, weight lifted off your shoulders. This is not something that you need to worry about immediately, but it is a good tool to have in your belt for when you're ready to start optimizing your campaigns beyond what the algorithm is able to do. So the reason that I recommend you use automatic placements from the beginning is that the Facebook algorithm is going to do so much work on your campaign after it's launched to get it optimized, to get it served to the right people at the right times, in the right placements. And it's going to automatically determine which placements are going to get you the best result at the lowest cost. But there's still work that you can do on the campaign, like selecting manual placements after you have the data that the algorithm is able to give you from running the campaign for several weeks or even months before you start making changes. Also, another note, the kind of complicated thing about using automatic placements means that your ad is going to show up in all of those placements. If they're applicable to the type of campaign that you have selected, then your ad's gonna show up there. So you do want to make sure that your ad creative is optimized for all of the placements. So that means having a specific ad for Facebook newsfeed versus Facebook stories or Instagram stories, having another image optimized for Instagram feed, maybe even having another one for Facebook right column or instant articles. Now, you can use the same image for a lot of the placements, but some of those specific placements like stories and Instagram, you want to make sure that you're creating images for your ad that are optimized for those placements. So keep that in mind. Yes, it's much easier to just select automatic placements, but then you want to make sure that your actual ad image is optimized for all of those placements. And if you need help with that process, I do walk you through how to design an ad for all of those placements in my course, Creating Ads That Convert, which I will link in the description box down below if you're interested in learning more. Okay, so let's say your campaigns have been running for a while and you feel like you have some pretty good data on your campaigns. So the next thing I want you to do is go ahead and pull up your campaign, and in your Ads Manager dashboard, in the top right corner, you're going to see the drop down called Breakdown. And under that drop down, you want to go over to By Delivery. And then under By Delivery, you're going to scroll down to Placement and go ahead and select that, close the drop down list, and then you'll start to see that the different placements where each of the ads have shown up are going to show up in the data. And what that's going to do is give you a breakdown of your results, impressions, clicks, cost, amount spent, cost per result, so on and so forth, by placement. So then you can start looking at which of those, 20 plus placements got the best results as far as the most impressions, the most clicks, the most results, and then which one had the lowest cost per result, or which group of placements had the lowest cost per result. So you can start to see which one offers you the most value, where you're really able to reach your audience, where you're actually getting conversions from your audience, because that's an important thing. It's not always just the most number of impressions. You also want to look at how many people clicked on your ad in that placement and how many people actually converted from that placement as well. So it's also important that you understand that the placements and the data that you're able to pull from the dashboard by placement is just one factor that goes into the success of your campaign. But what's nice about this is it's a pretty big factor that's really easy to gauge by pulling up the data in the dashboard. So as soon as you select placements as one of your breakdowns, you can see pretty quickly where you're getting the best reaction to your Facebook ads. Now, I mentioned earlier that we were going to talk more about the Audience Network. So the Audience Network is an off Facebook, on app network of high quality apps like gaming apps or news apps that have advertisement placements where your Facebook ads can be placed. And this typically works best for video ads. So if you have a video ad that's optimized for horizontal video, then the Audience Network is probably going to be a placement that you want to consider. What these placements allow you to do is to reach a much broader audience outside of Facebook and Instagram or even Messenger. So the Audience Network is very valuable for advertisers who want to reach people based on their mobile activity. So for instance, a lot of app developers, when advertising their apps, will use the Audience Network to place their ads in similar apps that the audience is already using. So if, for instance, I'm an app developer and I have a game that I want people to download, then it would make sense for me to place an ad about my game in another mobile app game. So the Audience Network was introduced in 2014, and since then it's been a growing network of apps that advertisers can use to reach a much broader audience. Until now, in June of 2020, Apple announced at its Worldwide Developers Conference that it would be introducing some new privacy disclosures. And I'm sure you've heard a little bit about the iOS 14 updates and all that that entails, and what Facebook's reaction was to the announcement of these iOS 14 updates. And if you're not familiar with it, I did a whole video breaking it all down for you. I even went into the history of Facebook versus Apple, why they just kind of hate each other, and what Facebook's reaction was to the introduction of these privacy disclosures at that Worldwide Developers Conference in June. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll go ahead and link it for you here. You can check that out. But that initial announcement caused quite the stir with Facebook, and they were not very happy to hear about these privacy disclosures because of a few reasons. Number one, it means that all app developers in the App Store are required to provide a disclaimer to all of their users about exactly what type of data the app is collecting, and it requires the user to opt in to allow the app to collect that data. So, as I'm sure you know, Facebook collects a lot of data on its users, and that's how they're able to monetize it through their ads, which is really great for small businesses. It allows them to reach a whole new audience that they probably wouldn't be able to reach through traditional advertising. So it has its perks, but a lot of the information that Facebook is collecting on their audience is not really monitored or regulated. And so when Facebook found out that Apple was trying to step in and regulate this, they weren't too happy about it, as I'm sure you can understand. But basically, this change doesn't just affect Facebook, it affects every app developer who has an app in the App Store. So Apple decided to delay the launch of the privacy disclosure, and in September of 2020, they went ahead and launched the iOS 14 update without the privacy disclosure. And now it's looking like this privacy disclosure is going to be implemented in the next update, which is iOS 14.5, coming later this spring. So Facebook is on super high alert, and they are warning all of their advertisers that the iOS 14 update is coming soon. So what does all this have to do with the audience network placements? Well, in order for Facebook to both place an ad on a different app outside of Facebook and Instagram and Messenger, and then track that ad, it relied heavily on something called an IDFA, which is an identifier for advertisers. And IDFAs are actually provided by Apple to advertisers like Facebook. And because Apple is requiring users to opt in to data sharing, it means that the data the IDFAs are able to collect is now very limited and could potentially be inaccurate. And because of this, Facebook no longer feels like the data that they're providing on any audience network placements is reliable. So, with the rollout of iOS 14.5 coming sometime later this spring, maybe it's already out by the time you're watching this, and that's why you're here, you're trying to figure out what's going on, we are probably going to see the biggest impact happen to audience network placements. So if you are not an app developer and you don't plan on running high quality video ads to your audience outside of Facebook or Instagram or Messenger, then this update or this change is probably not going to impact your ads very much. But if this is something you do rely heavily on in your Facebook advertising, then you need to be aware that this change is coming and that it's going to have at least an initial impact on the success of your ad campaigns until Facebook is able to fully grasp what this change means for their audience network placements. So all of that to say, this is something to just keep in mind when you finally get to the point where you want to start choosing your placements for your Facebook ads. And it's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on as the iOS 14.5 update rolls out and as more information becomes available from both Facebook, Apple, or any other app developers. I will be sure to keep you guys updated on what that means, because the iOS 14.5 update could have an impact on all Facebook ads regardless of whether or not you're using the audience network placements. So just keep that in mind and be sure to subscribe so you can see any of my future update videos when that rollout actually happens. Okay, so that was my quick breakdown of all the different Facebook ad placements. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you have any questions about Facebook ad placements or just Facebook ads in general, feel free to leave a question in the comment section down below. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.